Okay, Chiara Koto. Good morning. I'm Heide from the HIT Lab, the Human Interface Technology Lab at the University of Canterbury in Christchurch, where I'm Associate Professor and Head of the Applied Immersive Games Initiative. So, that was the most complicated part of my talk, I think. What we are doing at the HIT Lab is looking into immersive applied games. And we do this with a strong background because like New Zealand's culture, New Zealand is known for people who work hard and play hard. And even in Maori culture, a lot of game elements are implemented. And I think New Zealand is known worldwide for their haka, for their strong engagement in sports and play. So that is something that gives us a strong basis for our research. But also, the industry that is quite strong, and we saw in the first keynote some of the numbers. And I'm not going into the details of these numbers here, but like these are two tables. The blue one is from 2014, and the other one is from last year. And you see, like in 2014, NZGDA assumed like the revenue of the games industry in New Zealand of about $80 million, and then in the last year it is like more than 500 million. And these are two different associations that compiled these numbers, so we'll have to be a little bit careful about it. What it clearly indicates, at least, is the growth in the industry numbers and the revenue. So it's definitely a market that is worth to support. While at the HIT Lab, we don't look so much into the entertainment games industry, but really into immersive gaming for applied cases. So the HIT Lab is a research lab where we work together with postgraduate students and with industry, and our slogan is we put people before technology. So as Mel said, we always try to understand the problem of an organization or individuals. And that's sometimes harder than you think, because sometimes organizations come to us and then they say, we do have a communication problem, can you like help us and develop a game to train our employees better communication skills? But that's often not the problem. It can be like the organizational culture. So we really have to engage like with the clients or problem owners first and understand really what the problem is and then find the right solution. So we're also not a lab in VR, for example, where we like put forward VR for everything that's out there, but we are experts in different types of technologies, including games. So we have the ability to find a good solution that is really like connected to the distinct problem. The HIT Lab NZ was founded in 2002, and of course Mark played a major role in that. It's the largest interaction lab in NZ with a lot of staff and students around, so it's really a vibrant place. And the New Zealand government invested a large amount of money in the Applied Immersive Gaming Initiative, which I'm leading there. We started last year, which was not the easiest moment to start. When you like come in a country, and I'm from the Netherlands, where like the applied games industry is really large, and you come with this spirit to like make something similar happen in a different context, in a different country, and then COVID hits. But still, we are well underway, I think, with like understanding our context, understanding where clients are, and understanding the gaming market and reaching out to industry. Why did Rob, the director of the HIT Lab, think together with us why we should make applied immersive games research stronger at the HIT Lab? Is that very often you see that like games research, when it's not into technology or design, is conducted at business schools. And you might know the famous beer game, which like illustrates ripple effects in supply chains, which is like a typical business simulation game that like is used to illustrate business processes to like make students better understand what they are talking about and what they are learning. And business schools often have a lot of money, so they can invest in developing games and simulations, and they also are used to these tools because they use a lot of modeling and simulation in their work. But they, of course, also have like a very distinct lens to look at these instruments namely a business school lens. So the HIT Lab NZ is a multidisciplinary place where we have staff and students from different backgrounds, from engineering, computer science, to, like me, a media and social scientist. And I think this is really needed when you want to conduct research in this field, because it requires knowledge of the immersive technologies and game technologies. It requires some knowledge and insights in game mechanics, dynamics, and also the arts of games, because even developing serious or applied games is a creative undertaking. Also knowledge of users and user studies, so what types of methods do we have to use to understand what the users need and what they prefer, what they like, what the effects are of the things that we are using and developing, and also psychological and ethical implications of the things that we are using, because when we are talking about applied games, we want to create a certain effect, and we have to understand what this effect is. So in our understanding, applied immersive games are really games that are designed for additional purposes than only entertainment. It's something that, like Mel also talked about. So that can be learning or training, which is like a huge market, but it can also be awareness building or decision making. And when we talk about immersive games, of course we try to make use of different technologies to create immersion. But that can be really like different things like VR and AR, but also storytelling, for example, is a very strong means to create immersion. So at the Delft University of Technology, where I worked before I joined the HIT Lab, I was leading the game lab, and we really developed games from games with no material for the International Red Cross, for example, because it's their philosophy to also support developing countries. They don't have technology at all. Up to like VR and AR technology for the Dutch police or firefighting services. And this is a example which has been developed there at the Game Lab, where we developed a 2D digital game for airport traffic managers to understand the complexity of the system of an airport, and when they want to adapt the infrastructure, how an airport has to be connected to the rest of the environment around it, where to put marketplaces, where to put parking lots and all that stuff. And that's something that we really learned is the power of games compared to pure simulations, for example, that this interactivity and the direct feedback that people receive from games is really very helpful in creating awareness and creating a better understanding. So what we do at the HIT Lab at the moment is one project that I'm working with a summer internship, and Amir has just joined us on the 1st of November without any Unity experience whatsoever, but he's already able to create these very realistic models of volcanoes. We teamed up with some geology colleagues at the University of Canterbury, and we are trying to create really realistic virtual scenarios of volcanoes and volcanic eruptions. And this is not so much for training yet, but it's much more for research purposes and to look into the behavior of players in the case of a volcanic eruption and what kind of safety measures they would choose. So we can use a safe virtual environment to research behavior, and there's also where this multidisciplinary need comes in, because we are of course also thinking of implementing this as a training tool, for example, for tourist destinations when they get their safety induction. But we also think it might be that the tourism operators might not like this very much, because what we actually do is of course to illustrate how dangerous it could be to go and visit such a volcano. So it's something that you have to think a little bit deeper about. And I hope that early next year we will have a first real game where players might be able to play a volcano and to shoot projectiles, and others might play then tourists and visitors to the area, and we can see how they would behave and what kind of decisions they make to keep themselves safe. And another project is where we are working together with a postdoc researcher who is affiliated to the Heide Lab on exploring how we can use virtual reality to help children with ASD and ADHD, so children with autism, to better cope with daily situations, and also to better cope with the school environment, which is usually very demanding for these children. And so Richard, the postdoc researcher, he created these caves where the children are accompanied by, of course, an experienced trainer, and where they can just learn like what it means to like start off the day brushing their teeth, cleaning themselves, but also like crossing a street, how to engage with people, all this stuff where the children really have problems with. And we are also exploring the use of headsets. And we first thought it might be a little bit difficult for some of the children because they wouldn't tolerate the headsets. But actually studies show us that they do work quite well. And one of our assumptions is that we can use a very simplified virtual reality environments so that like the children are able to really focus their attention without distraction of like a loud and noisy classroom. But there are, of course, like many other research topics we are developing at the moment. So my colleague Stefan Lukosch, he's working on how AR could be used to increase the well-being and a more active lifestyle. Andy Phelps, who's a professor who is also working in the US, he's really very much looking into like streaming services, and both together are just like finishing a collaboration agreement with a large communication provider in New Zealand to actually look into the role of 5G in that. So that's also what the colleague mentioned. Rob is, of course, looking already very long into long-term immersion in VR, and so to enable players to stay longer in virtual environments. He also looks into 360-degree video for learning and training and science communication. And he brought some beautiful videos that we can have a look at like upstairs, so don't miss out the chance. And then we have like 3 staff members who are also affiliated to the gaming initiative and who are strongly working on education and applied immersive game design at the university. So we have like a huge team and can work on different topics. And to conclude, I think we are really in a very positive position at the moment, because in New Zealand we do have and see a culture of play and games. There's a really strong game development industry, and there are really high quality research and development facilities. And there are also many people and organizations with challenges and problems that we could solve with applied immersive games. But when I look at it still a little bit as an outsider, coming from the Netherlands, where like the games industry is part of the creative industries and a pillar of like the Dutch economy, and a lot of government funding goes into like joint ventures of research and industry. That's not yet the case here in New Zealand, so I think a more effective, efficient funding structure for the games field would be something really wishful for us. So if you want to learn more about our initiative and what we're doing, just get in touch with me or Rob. And we also have an open postdoc position at the lab at the moment. So if you know someone smart and vibrant to join us, then we are happy to welcome them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.